an unfortunate trend is occurring. This is now, or would be, the second time tonight that we have gone against the will of the voters. The first time was with Initiative 960 and advisory votes, and that was 15 years ago. And now it's Initiative 841 on a repeal of these type of ergonomic rules, and that was 20 years ago. And while time has passed in 15 or 20 years, the will of the people and the voice of the people should not diminish. The concerns I have are a narrative growing that musculoskeletal injuries are on the rise and are being compounded. And that the Department of Labor and Industries, especially when we're talking about state claims, those injuries are not going down. The initiative was passed. The department has general authority to make rules, and they are. They have the authority to create programs to go into industries and to work with businesses on best practices to help prevent these types of injuries, and they are, and they're effective. And we're now, this policy is looking for a problem that's not there. It's looking to fix something that's not broken. It's working.
Washington State, if this is adopted, will be the only state in the nation to have an ergonomics regulation on its state books. Madam Speaker, we've heard through the different speeches how the system is working. We've heard how responsive the Department of Labor and Industries is. We've heard how these injuries are declining across many of the categories. We're going to overturn a citizens' initiative and add perhaps burdensome regulations that are going to change the environment for not only employers but employees, and could potentially wreck those trends that have been downward for some time. I speak from a level of experience. When I was the CEO of a public agency before my retirement, we were doing a major change in our administrative office. And one of the things that we did is we called in L&I. We asked for that consultation. We asked for them to provide recommendations on different equipment and different furniture and things that would make our individual employees be able to adjust to their workstations and their work environments so they didn't have the repetitive motions that do cause those injuries. That technical assistance that was provided was instrumental in creating a workplace that, to my knowledge, has been very, very safe and effective. Again, things are working properly. Right now, they have the ability to come in and provide that technical assistance. They have the ability to do the consultations upon request. And they also have the ability to go into a workplace when there's a complaint that things aren't right. So adding the ability to create all these new rules and perhaps create a situation where change is made unnecessarily is not needed. This legislation could lead to increased injury. It could lead to increased premiums, and that's going to trickle down into our commodities, our health care, the cost of our workers' comp. We really need to think seriously about what we're doing here, Madam Speaker, and I urge you to join me in voting no. Let's take a step back and do the right thing for our employees and employers.
A couple of things that I just wanted to bring up that we've already talked about, but as other members have been speaking to this legislation. When this legislation, when we actually looked at this in early 2000s, before it was repealed in 2003, but when we were looking at that, the Department of Labor and Industries estimated that the cost of putting the ergonomic programs in place, the cost to employers would be $725 million. They estimate today that would be well over $1 billion. So to say that these costs would be minimal is really not very accurate. At least, basically, these are numbers that I've received from L&I. And I'd like to have permission to read.
Please proceed.
This is an email that I received from L&I a few weeks ago. And it just really it reiterates or goes back to some of the things that the other members have said as far as, that we've seen a decline in injuries and that the consultation services that we have in place right now are working.
It just sort of shocks the senses. I can't imagine that this body would support repealing all those initiatives over the years that have been passed by the voters. I think it could.
Please don't impugn members. Please proceed.
I apologize, Madam Speaker. I'm surprised that we're moving forward this tonight because I think listening to the will of the voters is very important. Tonight we've offered some well thought out amendments that I think improve the bill, and they're ones that both support workers and employers, and they have been rejected. This bill is unnecessary, as evidenced by the testimony of labor and industries that have reported a 28% decline on the job on these types of injuries in the previous 7 years. That is a healthy and robust rate in which injuries are declining, and that's something to be celebrated, but also examined and see what's working there and how we can even further reduce those injuries to workers. It's also important to note that no employer wants injured workers. No employer wants injuries to happen on the job. They're expensive. Currently, with the workforce shortages that we have, employers can't afford to have workers with time off due to injuries. And there's a massive incentive, not just because of the time loss, because of the expense of injuries, to have best practices that have safe procedures so employees can do their job in an injury-free way. I can speak to my business and my industry. I've done a consultation with L&I, and there's things that you learn about your procedures and your practice within your business that you can improve upon to prevent injuries from happening. But there's also things that you can do as an employer that once an injury happens, how you get that employee back to work as quickly as possible. And those are the types of practices that are going on that are helping decrease the amount of injuries that we have.
It encourages the kind of stereotypical antagonistic relationship between L&I and the businesses that it regulates and oversees. And that's unfortunate because, as we've said, there's so much in dealing with ergonomics issues that isn't like that. That is more collaborative. That is the way many of us want to see the relations between regulatory agencies and the businesses and ventures and entities that they oversee. We want to see them have that collaborative relationship. So we have this one area in workplace safety and public policy that's kind of going the right way, and without the corrections that our amendments would have made, we're going to move it back to the more contentious focus, the contentious structure, and that's not a good thing. And Madam Speaker, I can't not reference the fact that the last clear statement about this public policy was made by referendum and was made by the people directly. And this is a theme we've seen tonight, Madam Speaker. We are not paying enough attention and heed to the voice of the people in these public policy points. Now, it's my belief, and I think many on this floor believe, that when the people have spoken about a point in public policy, it is the people who should speak again, that only the people should modify public policy made by the people. We see that in this case. We see that in other cases too. So it's a tragedy, Madam Speaker. I could have gotten to yes. I could have asked you for a yes vote on this. But because of how we've handled it, I'm going to ask you and tell you that I'm going to vote no. But this was one we could have gotten to yes on. And it's a shame that we didn't.